Hi guys, how can 26? This is me, Penny, and this is my special mummy.
This is your special mummy?
Yeah, and this is my special baby.
Alright, go and play then. This is going to be a long episode. Hello and welcome to episode 26 of the Knitting Pickle Podcast. My name is Laura of Penrose Knits and we've got another podcast for you today. I think that's like 3 in a row now. I've not been feeling very vloggy, if I'm honest. Motorbike, apologies. I've got to really be in the mood to vlog. It's got to be a day or a time where I just really want to commit to it, like wholeheartedly, and really immerse myself in the vlogging process, and that's just not happened for a little while. So we're back with another podcast. I just want to sit and chat about knitting, you know. So if you are ready for some finished objects, some whips, some acquisitions, then stick around. I am in a new spot today, as you can see. In the last episode, I mentioned that I would like to do a bedroom renovation as a surprise for my husband whilst he was away in America for a work trip. And I did it. If you follow me on Instagram, I kind of did the whole thing across my stories. And I'm not going to go in depth about it here because this is a knitting podcast, but if you have watched my videos before, you'll know that this is a different setup for me. I had to film in here today for a few reasons. One, I wanted to, because yay, it's done and it's new and it's green and it's lovely. Secondly, because spring vibes, am I right? I would normally be downstairs in my guest room, which is a little bit more like autumn vibes down there. But this is definitely more spring vibes. The light is lovely. Also, it is the Easter half-term holiday, so my kids are home. I quickly realised that I am not going to have any time to film a podcast on my own for the next few weeks. It's just not going to happen. I've got 2 days kid-free, one of which is already fully booked up with stuff I need to do. The other one is not for like another 2 weeks, so I didn't want to wait that long because I've been quite productive. I've got a lot to talk about, and I didn't want to have like a really crazy long episode to film and edit. So that being said, we will be interrupted today, most likely, but that's what it's like when you've got little kids, and that's who I am. So there we go. I'll do my best to try and keep the cuts to a minimum, but I can already hear one of them walking towards me. You've just had your lunch and a banana and a Kinder Egg. I love you too. My house, by the way, is a weird one. It's built into a hill, so we've got like 2 rooms downstairs and everything else is on 1 level. So yes, I'm in my bedroom, but I'm right next to the living room, the kitchen and everything where the kids are, so I can hear them, I can see them, we're all good. So let's move into it nice and quickly. Let's not faff about too much today. I am wearing a finished object and something that's super exciting, and it's not brand new. I showed it last week, but it was still definitely in kind of whip form. Where was it? I say last episode. At what point was it in the last episode? I can't remember if I'd done a sleeve or anything like that, but basically I have finished my Midland cardigan. I will insert some B-roll as standing up and showing you is tricky, like blah blah blah, button band, yada yada yada, but I'll do some B-roll, be much better for you. This is my latest design and I'm so incredibly pleased with it. This is completely out of my comfort zone as a designer. It's a brand new construction. It's got techniques I've never done before, like in any other project, let alone designed with, and I'm just so proud of this one. It was a real brain exercise and I enjoyed every moment of it. I've been wanting to design a garter stitch garment for a while. I feel like garter stitch is having a bit of a moment at the moment. I test knit the Soho blouse for Kadri in January and I find I really enjoy wearing that garment. I really like the feel of garter stitch and how it looks, and it's something I haven't always liked for an adult garment, but I'm definitely enjoying it at the moment. But I wanted to create something that was just a little bit different, And I told this story in the last episode, so if you want more details, go and check that out. But basically I dreamt up this idea whilst on holiday a couple of weeks ago, lying in bed, unable to sleep, and the whole thing kind of formed in my head, the construction, the details and everything, and it has turned out exactly how I imagined, which is quite rare with designing. Quite often things will happen, either it turns out you don't really like the thing you thought of, so you change it, or you become restricted by certain elements, or, you know, sometimes things just evolve and change. But this one is exactly how I pictured it. So the thing that makes it special is it is worked sideways. I don't know if you can tell, obviously you will have seen some close-ups by now, but basically it's cast on at the side seam and worked across to here, and then the sleeves are picked up and worked in the round. How crazy is that? And then afterwards you add the rib on afterwards. You see it down here, and then you apply the double knit button band afterwards as well. I'm going to talk more about the button band today because, as I said, I've gone into a lot more detail about this in the previous episode. So if you're really curious about the construction, check that one out. The yarn is the Woolly Mammoth Fibres Hearth DK in the shade Moss, which it comes across as grey on most cameras and most phones, but in real life it's green. It's definitely green. It's a grey green, but it definitely leans more towards green in real life. My friend, I met up with a knitting friend the other day, he'd only ever seen this in pictures, and she was like, oh, it's green. I thought it was grey, but it's green. It's really green. I'm like, yeah, it's green. Don't really wear grey. So I do wear grey, but only in a pyjama context. I'm just not, I don't know what it is. I'm not really a grey wearing person. Maybe a grey cardigan, maybe a grey t-shirt, but I just never fully feel right in grey. Other than pyjamas. I love a grey pyjama or grey workout clothes or something like that. But overall, I'm not really much of a grey wearing person. So the fact that this reads more green in real life definitely makes it a bit more me. And I've worn it like so much since. It goes really nicely with blue jeans. It goes nice with black leggings. I'm wearing, let's talking of grey, I'm wearing grey workout leggings at the moment because it's a home day. So why would I wear jeans when I'm sat at home all day? But yeah, I love it. It goes with white, it goes with black. Yeah, I'm obsessed. So the button band. This cardigan sat ready for its button band to be applied to for about 2 weeks. Really had to work myself up to it. I was quite scared about it, but it was really easy. It just took a bit of time, but it was simple, just time consuming basically. So normally you'd be applying a double knit button band to a cardigan, obviously because it's a button band, but you might want to do it for like a neckline or something. But normally the garment would have been worked top down or bottom up, so you are basically trying to match your double knit row gauge to your stockinette body, whatever the pattern is, your body row gauge. And they are quite different because the way double knit is worked, you basically have stitches and you work every other stitch, turn it, and then you work every other stitch, which the stitches you didn't work the row before. So every row is made up of 2 rows. I know at first you're like, what? And honestly, I still don't fully feel like I fully understand double knit, and I've done it quite a few times in a few different contexts, but it works. But you're basically doing 2 rows per row, and the stitch length is kind of like a slipped stitch almost. So the tricky thing when it comes to attaching a double knit button band is matching that row gauge, because if the row gauge of your button band is longer or shorter than your body gauge, it's not gonna work basically. It's either gonna pull the garment in if it's too short, or it's gonna flare out if it's too long. So it can take some fine tuning. Now I had another obstacle, well, what I thought was an obstacle, but actually turned out to not be an issue at all, in that I am not matching row gauge here, I am matching stitch gauge because it's worked sideways. So all my edge stitches here that I'm picking up is actually a cast off edge. So instead of working with rows, I'm working with stitches. Now, the gauge for this is really quite strange because it's worked on 4.5mm needles with a DK weight yarn, but this yarn is really poofy, lofty, fluffy, light. It's gorgeous. It's worsted spun. Normally you get those qualities with a woolen spun yarn, which is spun, so there's just more air in it. But it's a worsted spun, I'm assured, by Emma. But it's still got this poofiness and lightness, and I ended up with quite a big gauge, a 16 stitch gauge, which is quite big. That's more usually like an Aran to chunky weight. It's crazy, but it's definitely right. It's definitely 16 stitches. So that's giving me 4 stitches per inch. And to match that row gauge, normally with a double button band, you end up going down a couple of needle sizes to match your row gauge on your body. But in this case, I would have had to have gone up quite a few needle sizes, and it was looking rubbish. So I basically had to give up all hope of matching this row gauge with this stitch gauge. Wasn't going to happen. That's fine. I had a little think, I had a little break, and what I did in the end was I basically took it in segments. So I took the front bit, like where you pick up the buttons, that front flat bit, and then I took the edge bit, and then I took the neck, which is row gauge, by the way, because of the way it works. That's not a stitch edge, that is a row edge, so that's another bit to have to try and deal with. And I took those sections separately and worked out how many stitches I would need to pick up in that space. So obviously there's 2 ways I can do this. I can look at my spreadsheets and see how many cast off stitches I have here. This is going to be tricky to explain, but this is good because this is a practice for when I have to put it in the pattern. I basically figured out that my row gauge for my double knit button band is 6 rows per inch. So then I took, say, this slanted section, and I'm like, okay, well, this is 10 inches. It isn't actually, I'm just using an easy number here. This is 10 inches. So to get a 10-inch button band, I need 60 stitches. 6 stitches per inch, 10 inches, 60 stitches. I then figured out how many actual edge stitches I had here, actual cast off stitches, and it was less than 60. So I think it was around 40 something. I'm not too sure exactly. Someone's just walked up to my front door. Are they gonna knock? Are they going to leave the parcel and run? Please leave the parcel and run. Yes, mate. It was like 40 stitches or something like that, or like 42. So I got the amount of stitches I had, divided it by the number of stitches I needed to have, and that told me how often I had to pick up an extra stitch, roughly. So yeah, and it worked. I just did that all the way around, and it helped because this is a straight edge, this is a slanted edge, so they'll have different pickup rates. So I've got the rib edge, I've got the rows along the back. It's just quite complicated initially to think about it. I don't know. I think, have I made this clear in any way? Does the sound of this terrify you, or does it make sense to you? Promise in the pattern it will be nice and clear and obvious. Also, there will be stitch counts, but being able to explain it this way, obviously I will put in the pattern how many stitches you will need to pick up for your size, but that will all depend on you having the correct button band row gauge. So what happens if you have 5 stitches per inch or 7 stitches per inch? Your button band won't work, and that can be frustrating because quite often you won't find that out until you've worked a length of button band, you've relaxed into your kind of gauge a little bit, and then you're like, hang on a minute, this isn't right. You've got to rip it all back out again, and double knit can take a while. So what I'm also going to do in the pattern is give you the math on how to figure out how many stitches to pick up per section based on your double knit button band row gauge. And then you've got to think about buttonholes and everything as well. So yeah, basically this is the longest pattern I've ever written in my life. Not only have I included instructions for working it, working the body seamlessly and seamed, but I've also given options to work the sleeves seamlessly and seamed, depending on what you would like. And then there will be in-depth instructions for the button band, and I will also include instructions on how to do a ribbed button band, because I know not everyone is going to want to take this on. Personally, it was worth every single second. I really feel like it elevates the whole thing. It makes it look so clean, so professional. It's a bit of a faux pas for someone who's making a handmade item to say that it doesn't look handmade, because surely something looking handmade isn't bad. We should be proud that we've handmade our garments. But I personally like it to look as unhandmade as possible. I want it to look perfect and pristine and like I bought it in a shop. So if someone goes, oh, I like your cardigan, where'd you get it from? I could be like, I made it, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yes, I know we all love that feeling. Don't tell me you don't love that feeling.
Can I bring my hammer?
Yeah. So yeah, I implore you, if you haven't done a double knit button band before, to give it a go, because it's just lovely. And the buttonholes are so gorgeous. They're worked in a really clever way, and it leaves a really sturdy buttonhole that isn't going to stretch over time. So yeah, so many advantages to a double knit button band. So that's the Midland cardigan. I was talking about this on my Instagram the other day. I am going to aim to be releasing this in September. I'm not rushing this one. I'm not forcing it through as quickly as possible because it needs time. I think it's going to be quite a lengthy edit. I've still got quite a lot of writing to do. I've written as I've gone along. So now all I've got left is the button band, but that's going to be a big thing. And then because it is such a unique construction, and it's not like you could work the yoke and a sleeve and then like doesn't matter about the rest, you have to work the whole thing really. I want to give my testers oodles and oodles of time, so it will basically be a summer long test, probably going from like June, July, August, ready for an early September release. So just as we're all starting to get excited about autumn and the weather is starting to get a bit cooler, this will be ready for you to make. And the test call will be coming, I said on Instagram that it was going to be coming in April, but actually it's probably going to be May, just because I've got other things that I need to work on beforehand. And it doesn't need to be done in April because I've got plenty of time yet. There will be a public test call for this. Yeah. Love you. So that is actually my only finished object. I've just realised that is my only FO, but we are very whip heavy at the moment. And I've got a whip you've already seen and 3 that you haven't. So there's lots of lovely new content for you here today. I'm going to start with my main whip that you have seen before. However, I have progressed significantly since you saw it. The last time I showed it to you, it was just the back section because I'd had to rip it out and start again. And since then, we have a completed yoke, neckline, and a sleeve and a half. We haven't done the body yet, but my sibling sweater, my size, is well on the way. Look at that stripy sleeve, woohoo! I'm so pleased with the neckline. I had to work the neckline twice because I massively over-engineered it, and it was far too long, and like it was almost like a hybrid between a round neck and a V-neck. Don't know what I was thinking. I basically forgot that the back shaping detail, this lovely angle on the back, which makes the sibling sweater the sibling sweater, adds, it doesn't, even though you cast it on as the back, it ends up being part of the neck because those increases push it round like that. So you kind of get, normally if you were shaping a neckline in this construction, you'd knit a little section here before you start decreasing for the neck here. But you don't really need to do that as much in this design because of that. And I'd forgotten that, and I did a really long section here and then far too deeper thing here. Anyway. I reworked the neckline and it's perfect. And I don't know why I decided to do the second sleeve straight away. I would normally probably do a bit of body at this point, but I think I was just ready for another sleeve. This sleeve knit up so quickly. I knit it over 24 hours, but I think it was about 8 to 10 hours of knitting. Just so quick and easy. There's something about 4mm needles and Merino DK yarn that my hands just love. Honestly, I don't try and knit fast. I'm not about that. I knit at my speed that's comfortable for my hands, that keeps my hands healthy. And I'd probably say I am a pretty fast knitter when I find the right gauge and tension and yarn and stuff, and this is just one of those where it just flies through my hands and I love it. The size of the needles, the gauge, it just works for me. So yeah, I knit this sleeve really quickly. The yarn, by the way, is Sandnes Garn Double Sunday. These are the PetiteKnit colours, camel and whipped cream. And I am having another sample of this made in a lilac-y colour in a different yarn, so there are options for you. Yes, darling? Yes, my sample knitter is making it in the Sandnes Garn Merino, which is basically the same as Sunday. It's very similar in yardage, but it is super wash. and I chose it because I liked the colour, so hopefully it will work. I'm going to pop this on for you because I'm at a point where I can quite easily do that. I have steam blocked this. I'm going to talk a little bit more about, do I need to talk about it later? Not really. Basically, I bought a steam blocker and it's changed my life. It's not a steam blocker, it's a garment steamer. And I use it all the freaking time. I steamed my new curtains when I put them up. I steam my clothes. The kids, I can never ever be bothered to get the iron out and the ironing board and stand there and wait for it to warm up in this big clunky heavy thing. I'm not an ironer, but plug in a steamer and just go, I'm good. I absolutely love it. And it makes the blocking process throughout designing so much quicker. I steam blocked each section of my cardigan so I can kind of keep on track, make sure everything's working out, that I like the fit, I like the look, and then at the end I wet blocked the whole thing just because, one, I wanted it to smell like wool wash, and two, it just kind of helps it all kind of like meld together in a way that steam blocking doesn't do. Also, like, I feel like it doesn't feel clean after I steam blocked it because I'm just like making it warm and damp. It doesn't necessarily feel like I'm cleaning the garment. And obviously you've been working on this with your hands, like there's food and kids and stuff around. I want a clean garment when I'm done. So, but it does mean that instead of having to wet block and wait for each of those sections to dry like I normally would have done, I can just give it a quick steam. It's dry within like not even an hour if I put it near a radiator, but even then sometimes like minutes. It depends on the yarn and how easy it is to like drop. It's just sped up the whole thing. So this is steam blocked, but wet blocking it will change it again. It will make it grow like a little bit more, but you get the overall idea. Oh my gosh, I'm not really one to wear much pattern. I prefer solid, plain, neutral colours in my wardrobe. Occasionally a little bit of colour, but I do love a stripe. It's the only kind of, and a polka dot, occasionally a polka dot, and occasionally leopard print. But again, only in neutral colours. But a stripe, I love a stripe. I feel good in a stripe. I wear stripes all the time. Oh my gosh. The sleeve is feeling a teensy tiny bit short right now, but it hasn't been wet blocked yet, and I know it will grow a little bit more because also the shoulder will drop a little bit more as well. And I think in general people prefer sleeves to be a teeny bit shorter than they do longer. I'm a longer sleeve person, so I may go back and add 2 more stripes to this. One of the design challenges with this is that in order for my cuff, collar and hem to match, we need to be ending on a coloured stripe, and that means I can only work in the increments of this size. Like it might be like, basically these stripes are each about 1 inch long roughly. It might be that I only want an extra inch in my sleeve, but to make the pattern work I have to have an extra 2 inches. So I've got to choose between, yeah, I can only work in 2-inch increments, which is tricky, and especially when it comes to recommending things, because sleeves and body lengths are so personal and don't really correlate to bust circumference. Like the standard size, the sizing standards that you get, that you work from, it's all kind of based around bust circumference really, but that doesn't really take into account that someone could have a 40-inch bust and be a foot taller than somebody else with a 40-inch bust, and height is what affects sleeve length rather than bust. So yeah, it's a tricky one, but obviously in the pattern it's full of advice on how to change sleeve lengths, where to change sleeve lengths, what to do about the striping pattern, decrease rates, everything. I've gone quite in depth with this because it is, to get it right, it's not just as simple as adding on a little bit more length if you fancy it. So once it is all fully blocked, I will see about the sleeve length. I might make it a bit longer, we will see, but it's literally just adding on 2 stripes. So there we go. Let me show you the back, how it looks on a body. This is what it's all about, isn't it? This is what it's all about. This intersection of this and this and this and this, I just tickles my knitting pickle. So there you go, that's a Sibling sweater my size. I did a double folded collar because I can't not. I honestly don't think I would ever do a normal collar unless it was like a summer garment or a kid's garment. But even then, I'm just all about the double fold. I just think it looks so beautiful. I didn't do anything on the fold. I didn't do a purl row. I didn't do double knit. Didn't do nothing. Just folded it down and it looks beautiful. It might need some elastic. It might not. The collar is applied afterwards, which gives it a lot more strength because the weight of the garment is coming from this pickup here, which is strong rather than just like coming from here. I haven't added elastic. I probably won't need to add any elastic, but there we go. It's tricky to show the fit right now because there's no body to it, and obviously the body is going to make quite a big difference to it, but you get the general vibe. So the plan for the Sibling sweater my size, even though we are not yet finished, the pattern has been written and it's been sent to my editor, and she's going to do the first edit tomorrow, which is so exciting. And then she is taking the week after Easter off. So I'm really hoping that the majority of the edit can be done in like one edit. And when I get her edit back tomorrow on Tuesday, I'll work on it straight away and get it back to her for Wednesday. So hopefully we could squeeze one more in before Easter, and then it will go to test as soon as possible. Honestly, it's going to be quick, this one. I want this to be released by the end of May latest. It's going to be my last kind of sweater design for a little while, I think, or at least my last sweater release until September, because it really doesn't make that much sense releasing like a full-on woolly sweater in July or August. And yes, I know there are different hemispheres in the world, but when I look at my demographics of people that actually buy my garments and who consume my content, it's 95% my hemisphere, so that's what I'm going to go with because that makes more business sense. So yeah, this will be my last kind of wintry, and even then it's not that wintry. I love the vibe of this. I love that it's a bit more spring summer. My plan is to wear it with a floaty silk skirt, or you could even wear it like in the evening with shorts or just jeans. Like, yeah, I just think it's got more spring summer vibes to it anyway. I don't think, obviously the colour has a lot to do with it, you know, if it was in darker colours maybe it would be a little bit more wintry, but I think it's just about still seasonally appropriate. So the test call for this will be, I stopped my train of thought, didn't I, with the Midland cardigan with the test call. Yes, the Midland cardigan and the Sibling sweater my size are both going to be public test calls. I haven't done a public test call for a while because they were really stressing me out and I hated doing them, and I hated having to try and pick from, I could only pick 10% of the applications, which was hard because there were hundreds of applications, and I felt incredibly guilty about it. I felt incredibly anxious about it. I was terrified that I was going to be getting emails or messages from people demanding to know why I hadn't picked them, and like, it was just too much. So by the time I got to the Eclair, I realised that I had quite a solid tester pool already of people who I'd already worked with. So I've just been pulling from that tester pool for the last couple of months, and it's been really good. It's been really good for my mental health. It's meant that I have continued to design and actually put the designs through the process of getting them to publish, and it's just given me a little break from it. But I do feel like I am now ready to give that a try again. Also, because I have already done and released the child's version of this sweater, the pattern itself is like, it's good. It's only the numbers that are different really from the kids one, so I'm confident in that pattern. I know that there aren't really going to be any issues in it. There aren't normally any major issues anyway. There are sometimes bigger issues, but I'm confident this one is going to be quite a good, easy, simple test, an enjoyable test, a chilled out test. And I want to, you know, I want to bring some new people in. It's a good idea to have new people in your testing pool because people get used to your writing style and therefore might like overlook things. So it's good to get fresh eyes, new people in on something. So I'm looking forward to meeting some new testers. The test call will be, yeah, in the next week or two. And yeah, hopefully it won't be too stressful for me. And then I'm hoping that will give me the confidence to do the Midland cardigan. I will likely give preference to my current testing pool, definitely on the Midland, because it's going to be a tricky one. I need to know I've got people who I can rely on to do a good test knit. And I really have got some amazing core people that have tested for me a lot, that I know are never going to hold back. They're going to give me all their opinions, whether they think it might upset me or not, and they like the detail that some of my testers can really go into is incredible. So if any of those people would like to test me again, they will get preference, but there should be plenty of space for lots of new knitters in both test knits. Yeah, and then that will kind of be that is kind of what we've got for the next couple of weeks, really, when it comes to designs and releases and test knits and stuff. Though there is potentially one more test knit that will be happening in the next couple of months, and I'll talk about that in acquisitions. But I've got a few more whips in the meantime. I'm going to take this off because I'm getting hot now. So let's do some new whips. Whilst we're on the Sibling vibes, I do have another Sibling whip to show you, but it's very small and I won't dwell on it, but I really, really want to show you the yarn. My friend Simone from Russ Knitwear, who I am delighted to tell you has a new podcast. I normally save my podcast recommendations till the end, but I'm going to give it you right now because I'm about to talk about her. Simone has started a new podcast and it's wonderful. I think she's done 4 episodes in quite quick succession, and they are they're very fresh and new, and I love that. She doesn't do the normal format. They're relaxed, they're chilled, you feel like you're in her own home, you feel like you're sitting and knitting with a friend, but they are also knowledgeable and interesting and clever and beautifully shot, and they're just wonderful. And I'm like, Simone, why did you not do this sooner? I absolutely love them. So I will link her below. Simone of Russ Knitwear's new podcast, and she was talking about the Sibling sweater, but how she would prefer it if it was a cardigan, because she prefers to put her children in cardigans. And the moment she said the word Sibling cardigan, I was like, oh no, I've got the idea now. I can envision it in my head and I'm gonna have to do it. So yes, I have cast on a Sibling cardigan, child size. I have no intention of getting this anywhere near publication anytime soon. This is just, I had to cast it on because I had to see the yarn, but this probably won't come into the forefront until maybe autumn now, because it's not that different to the Sibling sweater really, but it's going to be a cardigan version with a v-neck with a double knit button band, and you know, it will just be lovely. And I started with the kids version because they are much quicker to do than the adult version. I don't know if I'll do a Sibling adult. I can see it. I could do a Sibling cardigan my size. Oh man, it's going to be like the souffle, isn't it? I started with 1 and then by the end of the year there were like 10 of them. So yeah, multiple siblings coming your way. But nevertheless, let me show you. Look at the vibes, look at the yellow spring vibes. Isn't it amazing? It is so yellow. I really hope this comes off in camera because it's almost neon. It's not quite neon, but it's so bright. It just makes me so happy. One of the things I love about knitting for my kids is I can have my colour therapy time, and you're going to see a lot more of that in the next whip, I promise you. I don't wear colour. It's not something I feel comfortable in, but I love working with colour. I enjoy colour. I love looking at colour, so I get to do that through my kids. And oh my god, it's just so stunning. The moment I saw this colour, I knew I had to use it for a Sibling cardigan for Penelope, my daughter, who you have seen make a few cameos today. I'm going to give you a close-up because you need to see the texture of this yarn and the kind of, I want to say the fibre quality. This is the Mendip DK by Marina Skua. I am so excited to finally be using some of this yarn. It's some yarn I've wanted to try for a long time. Marina's podcast was one of the first podcasts I ever watched, and I started watching them just as she was I think she was pregnant when I started watching them, but I went back and watched them all from the start. And then she had a little bit of maternity leave and she's back now and she's producing again and making content, and I'm so pleased because I love her podcasts. Lots of podcast recommendations for you today. She does this very clever thing that, as somebody who edits videos, really appreciate. She achieves the pretend cameraman so well. She does this thing where it just feels like there are a couple of cameramans shooting her at once, but it's all done very cleverly with editing, and I love it. Every time she does it, I'm like, oh, fills me with editing joy. Marina is she's just a yarny person. I feel like there is yarn running through her veins. She creates beautiful British, unique, bespoke yarn. She dyes it herself, and she also writes knitting patterns. She self-publishes, she writes for publications, she makes content. She's just a yarny person. She just lives the life of yarn, and I love that because, I mean, I guess I live the life of yarn as well. What, you live the life of yarn? I need to like trademark that, living the life of yarn. Maybe that's what my book will be called if I ever write a book. If you're a publisher, I'll write a book for you. Anyway, it would either be called Living the Life of Yarn or Maximum Cozy. Now that's what I call a tangent. Anyway, the Mendip DK. So I'm gonna read the label for you. The sheep that provide the wool for this yarn live on an eco farm on the Mendip Hills. The yarn is spun in the UK and hand dyed in Bath. It's woolen spun, springy and rustic, perfect for colourwork, cables and steeking. It's so lovely. I've wanted to try a woolen spun yarn for so long. You can really tell the difference. It is bouncy, it is lofty. Just feels so nice to work with such a with a product that so much love and care has gone into. One of the things I want to do this year is focus more on British yarn, British producers, British businesses, British dyers. I've obviously done that with the woolly Mammoth Fibres, which is a British yarn. The fibres come from Northern Ireland, it's spun in Cornwall, it's hand dyed in Northern Ireland, and it's just all about the best of British and celebrating British wool, as is this. And I'm also talking to a few other indie dyers. I'm working with John Arben this year as well, and there's just, yeah, I just really want to focus more in on what's available to me, because you know we hear a lot about Icelandic yarn, we hear a lot about Norwegian yarn and Scandinavian yarn, and I'm like, what about the British yarn? I still will obviously be using what's the word? I can never remember the word. Commercial yarns. I'm also trying to reduce my stash this year, so if I've got it in stash I will use it, which is why I used the double Sunday for the adult sibling sweater. But I also want to make sure that I'm expanding my yarny horizons, and I will actually be going to the John Arben Mill Open Weekend this year, which I'm so excited about because I've always wanted to go, and I was nearly going to book tickets, and then they emailed me saying, did I want to go? And I was like, yes please. So I'm going to go to the Mill Open Weekend, and I'm also going to be going to a talk with Marina Skua all about yarn and producing yarn, so I'm so excited for that. I'm excited to meet her as well. Hopefully she'll let me come and say hi afterwards, like such a fangirl, it's ridiculous. But anyway, one of the lovely special things about this yarn as well is that it's available in two bases. One of them is the sunny base, and one of them is, I want to say, either cloudy or stormy. It either used to be cloudy and is now called stormy, or it used to be stormy and it's now called cloudy. Basically, one is lighter and one is darker, and this is the sunny base, the lighter base. So what Marina does is she will take, I think this is undyed. Oh no, it's sheep, so it might be dyed. Yeah, I guess so. What she does is she takes the dye bath for, say, this one, which is called Bloom, and she will apply this dye to the sunny base and the stormy / cloudy base, and they'll obviously come out differently because they'll have a different base, but she uses the same colours, and it's lovely because you can get Bloom on a sunny base or Bloom on another base. And it's so clever because you can use the same colour on the two bases and use them in the same project together in colour work, but they meld together, and it's just very, very clever. And I highly encourage you to go and watch Marina's podcast because she goes into detail about this and explains the process, and it's just so interesting. It's so lovely. And what I like about this yarn is that it's got that kind of, it's got the dark, almost like a black fibre running through it that isn't dyed. Obviously, I think. Mommy, I did it! as I was saying, there's like a darker fibre that runs through this, and I've noticed this in John Arbon yarns as well. That kind of, just that darker fibre that doesn't get dyed. Like, I guess a really dark black strand isn't going to take a bright yellow without being bleached first, is it? And I love that because it just gives a depth to it and a tone to it, and when you're using a number of different colours in a project, it kind of syncs them together, and I just love that. I'll hold them up nice and close so that you can hopefully see what I'm talking about. I just love it. So texture wise, it's definitely on the more rustic side. It's not the most rustic thing I've ever felt, but it's also not exactly merino. I don't mind that even for a child's garment, because I'm hoping my children will grow up wearing real wool and be used to it. Penny certainly is. She wears mohair all the time. She's not bothered at all. Also, it's a cardigan, so it will be going over other things, even if it's like a long sleeve t-shirt, so I'm not worried about the wooliness of it at all. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I know it's going to be super warm. Penny goes to an outdoor nursery, although by the time she wears this she won't be in nursery anymore, she'll be at school. I'm not ready. Penny goes to an outdoor nursery currently, so I like putting her in wool because I know it keeps her super, super warm. So that's another little kind of, it's kind of a whip, but it was more like a cast on that I couldn't resist, that will now be put on hold until probably the cooler months come around again. While we're on the subject of Penelope, my daughter, my next whip is another jumper for her. She has probably received the most knitted garments anyone has ever received, and she's received them all in like the last few months. Don't know what it is. I can't stop knitting for her. I do know what it is. She loves it. She's the most knit-worthy person I've ever met. If I'm making something, she goes, "Is it for me?" And if I put a jumper on it, "Did you make this for me, mummy?" She just loves it. She appreciates it so much. My mum also makes her clothes because my mum's a sewer, and particularly leggings and like dresses and stuff, and she's like, "Did my nana make this for me?" And my nana made this for me. She loves it. She has had, obviously she's had her sibling sweater. I made her a Monday sweater by PetiteKnit in like a rainbow neon sprinkle yarn, which is in the last episode. And I am now making her another rainbow sweater that I'm about to show you, that will be finished very, very soon. And yeah, she's excited for it. She was in here a minute ago and she saw it and she went, "Are you going to finish this for me, mummy?" And I was like, "Yes, I will do eventually. I just need to put some sleeves on." And she goes, "You need to do that now." She wants to wear her new rainbow sweater, and it makes me so proud. So speaking of which, nevertheless, why am I saying that? Here is my latest whip for young Penelope, and also a bit of a palette cleanser because just needed a little bit of a break from the designing. Are you ready for this? For the amazingness that is this rainbow sweater. It's almost like a bit tie-dye, isn't it? It's got tie-dye vibes. Oh. And I should probably let you know how I achieved this, but my battery is flashing and I need to get the yarn I made it with. Bear with. Okay, battery changed, yarn acquired, the sun has gone in and I'm out of focus. Professional. So, to create this such fun rainbow sweater, I used a combination of 3 different yarns. I'm going to put it down because it's going to be struggling with the focus. To create this, I used a little bit of this, which is Drops Air, and a little bit of this, which is Knitting for Olive, Kid Silk Mohair, only the best for my little girl, and a little bit of this. I bought this on an absolute whim. I went to Hobbycraft last week to get some Eastery crafts for the kids for the holidays and pick up a few bits and pieces, and I thought I'd just have a little look just in case there was some like nice looking summery cottony yarns. Hobbycraft isn't the best for yarn. It's mainly acrylic and it's like a lot. Like, yes, I think it's important to have acrylic yarn stocked, but it's like almost all acrylic. And then you've kind of got the Serdar, you've got a little bit of West Yorkshire Spinners. I did see one West Yorkshire Spinners yarn that was like mainly tencel or something that looked really interesting. but it didn't spark a design in my mind, and I'm trying not to buy yarn unless it really sparks something in me, which this did. I saw it and I was like, I immediately know what I'm going to do with this. I saw the colours and I thought Penelope would absolutely love this. She loves like a rainbow vibe, and what I like about this yarn is that it doesn't have red in it. I like that it's pink and purple, yellow, orange, green. There isn't any blue in it really either. There's like a teal, but no real blue. So it gives rainbow vibes, but not like obvious rainbow vibes, which I like. And I thought, this is just a DK weight yarn. It's 80% acrylic, 20% wool. It's mega fluffy, mega poofy. And I just thought this would work for like a marble sweater. The PetiteKnit design, the marble sweater, which is like chunky mohair held with another chunky, massive needles, really big gauge I think. And I thought this would just kind of work with this vibe. And I had this in stash, well not enough because I had to order some more, and I had this in stash. I pretty much always got some form of white mohair in stash in some way, and I thought let's just give it a go, let's just have a little bit of fun with it. And I just wanted some of that kind of colour therapy, that brightness, that funness, but obviously not something I would wear, so I thought, well, P would be into something like this. So this isn't actually a marble sweater by PetiteKnit. It's knitted to tighter gauge. This isn't a pattern that I followed. I self-drafted this as I went along, just because I wanted a break. I didn't want to follow a pattern. I didn't want to write a pattern. I just wanted to knit and have a bit of fun. I've got enough experience with this kind of garment that I can make it up in my head. I did do a gauge swatch to start with, just to make sure that I liked the fabric and to see what my gauge was. I did a quick sum to figure out how many stitches I need here, and then and I think I referenced another PetiteKnit pattern to find out the neck circumference of her Monday sweater, because I really liked the fit of the neck on her Monday sweater. I figured out what the size of the neck hole was on that, and then did maths to find that out here. And then I just did a really simple raglan. I started at the neck, I did a 2x2 neckband and folded it over, and then continued. I did do some short row shaping at the back. I literally just did 2 short rows because it's quite a big gauge. Just adding 2 short rows added an inch to the back, which I think is more than enough for a kid's garment. It really is. And then yeah, I just increased to the sleeves until I got the sleeve size that I wanted, and then continued. I think I did a few more increases to the body and then carried on. And completely accidentally, completely unplanned, we ended up with this kind of yellow centre with the colour phase mirrored on the other sides. The bottom rib is purple, the top rib is purple. Like honestly, I don't think I could have achieved this if I planned it. It was a complete fluke, and I think it is wonderful. And maybe that's what's giving it the tie-dye vibe. I love it. I love that that yellow is in the middle. And so if you wanted to achieve this, by the way, you could do a very similar thing with either the PetiteKnit marble sweater, but that is a much bigger gauge. So if you don't like really big needles, I think I used 8mm for the body, 7mm for the rib, and the marble sweater I think is either 9 or 10mm. It's quite big, and I know a lot of people struggle with needles of that size. So you could achieve that look with this, or you could do the Monday sweater by PetiteKnit. You could do the flax sweater by Tin Can Knits, which is free. It's got kind of like a garter panel down the side here, but you can omit that, and I think that goes up to Aran weight. So you could just literally hold like this yarn or a similar DK rainbow yarn with one fluffy yarn like this and do it at a tighter gauge. You could just like have fun with it. You can just go stash raiding. You can even use minis to kind of create the rainbow vibes if you wanted to, and stripe them and fade them a little bit, and that fade would be blurred by the fluff. It's just have fun. There you go. Let me give you a close-up. It's just a bit of fun. Honestly, so fun. And I made this. I cast it on, I did this in one evening I think. I cast it on at about, I think it was about maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'd finished the body by the time I went to bed, but I think that was at about either midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. I did stay up quite late, but I was watching the new season of Love is Blind, so you know. I did a little split hem because I just love the way a split hem looks on Penny. Her Monday sweater has a split hem, her Sibling sweater has a split hem. Just think it looks so cute because it's quite oversized and their little skinny legs stick out the bottom. It just it just works better on an oversized garment. I think, hear me then, how Midlands did I sound then? It works better. It works better with a on an oversized garment, because it then doesn't go in at the rib, it stays wide. Like, so yeah, when I think a garment goes kind of past the hips, which this kind of does, yeah, I just think a split hem really works. And again, I did 2x2 rib just for a little change, just to mix things up a little bit. Not usually my kind of thing, but I felt like it and I love it. And then to bind off, I did start by doing like a tubular bind off, where you swap the stitches round and then bind off, but it looked rubbish. So I cast off just completely traditionally, knit the knits, purl the pearls, pass one over super loosely, but I did it from the wrong side. And what that means is that the kind of knit stitch edge, I mean, this is the worst thing to show you in, but the knit stitch edge that you get from that bind off kind of tucks to the inside of the garment, and you just get the very edge of it from the outside, and I really quite like that. You can barely see it, again, because this is like a mild rainbow vibe. Your eye really isn't drawn to that bind off at all, is it? So yes, I now have been tasked with adding the sleeves. I'll probably be able to knit these sleeves in about 2 hours, so I think I probably will do these tonight. How lovely would this be for Easter Sunday? How much of an Easter vibe is this? Yeah, I'll definitely have this finished, I think, for the weekend. We're going down to Devon for Easter, but we're not actually going down until Easter Sunday, because my husband booked a work thing on Saturday night and forgot about it. So we'll be travelling first thing Easter Sunday and staying in Devon for a few days, and she can wear this for her little Easter outfit. Yay! I'm excited to get that finished. Such fun. I'm also thinking I'm going to have more than enough yarn to make another one. I haven't weighed how much I have left. I wound off a little bit of this yarn. So there's still things to talk about. For the split hem, obviously I worked the front bit first, and what I did, because obviously we went into the purple here, I wanted the back hem to match, so I wound off some of my yarn until I got to that same point again. Because this kind of goes back and forth, it doesn't go like pink, yellow, green, blue, pink, yellow, green, blue. It goes pink, yellow, green, blue, green, yellow, pink, yellow, green, blue, blah, like it goes back and forth like that. So it didn't take me very long until I got back to this kind of colour, and then I added it to the back. So the front and the back match, and conveniently it meant I've got a little ball of yarn here with yellow in the middle, which I'm going to pull from, so I should be able to pick up at a yellow point in this ball and do a sleeve. Obviously there's going to be a lot more yellow. We'll probably only get to about here in the striping pattern on the sleeve because it's such a small circumference. I might cut a chunk of the yellow out just so we see a little bit more of this colour on the sleeve, and then I will wind off again until I get back to whatever the next bit of yellow is. So I'm probably going to be left with a few little odd balls of this yarn, but this yarn was really inexpensive. I don't think it was more than £5 for a 100-gram ball. And Penny has a little friend at nursery who she has become very close with recently, and I was chatting to her mum in the playground the other day, and her mum's a knitter as well. She was like, oh, I love Penny's jumper. I was like, oh, I made it. She was like, oh my god, you a knitter? I'm a knitter too. And it was like, oh, I already liked you, now I like you even more. And her daughter like loves Penny. She's a bit younger than Penny, so they won't be going to school together, which is a real shame, but it's her birthday at the end of the month, and she's invited Penny to her birthday party, and I've got a feeling when she sees Penny in this jumper when she goes back to nursery, she might want one too. They're very similar. They both love baby dolls. They both love unicorns. They've got quite a lot of the same clothes, we've noticed. They quite often have matching outfits. They quite often have matching hair. So I thought I've got more than enough yarn left over to make another one of these. And if I need to buy another ball of the rainbow yarn, then so be it. I bought enough of the Drops Air. I don't know how her mum feels about mohair, but I think, I mean, personally, I just poked myself in the eye with a blooming stitch holder. We'll see. I know a lot of people wouldn't even dream of giving something mohairy or woolly or something like that to another person's child, but she's a knitter. Her mum's a knitter. She knows, she understands. I think it'll be fine. And I'll make sure to say to her if it's too if it's too itchy for her, not to worry about it, just give it back and I'll like donate it to somebody else. I won't put any pressure on her to keep it if it doesn't work for her. But yeah, I just thought it'd be really nice for them to have little matching jumpers because they love each other. I've got one more whip to show you and then a couple of acquisitions and then we're nearly done. This is why I need to podcast more regularly, otherwise they get really long. I don't mind a long episode, but each to their own. So the next whip, the final whip, is a bit of a weird one. It's gonna look so weird to show you, but it's not a garment and it's not an accessory and it's a little something inspired by my new bedroom. Can you guess what it's gonna be? That's right, it's a mushroom. This is not a mushroom. This is a pillow. It is the teddy pillow by PetiteKnit. Yes, I know, lots of PetiteKnit at the moment, but I mean, it kind of looks like a beret. I did think about making a hat with this when I first, oh my god, if I have any of this left over, I'm making a freaking Bouclé beret. That's right. So I have had this yarn in stash for a while. This is the Rowan Boucle alpaca soft boot, I don't know, it's the Rowan Boucle basically, and I had 3 balls of it in stash. I bought it ages ago. I got on that Boucle trend way before everyone else, just saying, but then I didn't know what to do with it and then finally a pattern arrived that I really liked. So yes, we have the PetiteKnit teddy pillow, and this is the bolster type pillow. There's like a flat one which is literally just the square that you sew a back onto. But this is the long, thin, tubey version. Yes, mate? I really wanted to make something for my new bedroom and I thought, well, this would be perfect. Like looking at my bed, it's very symmetrical. It's like the same either side, and I thought this would be nice to just have one pillow across the middle of the bed, or even at the foot of the bed, or I don't know, who even knows. And actually looking at the colour now in the context of my room, it's a little bit dark. I probably would have chosen a slightly lighter colour, but either way I think I'll love it. And this is just kind of like my as I go whip. I don't have any kind of deadline for this. I worked on this in the car the other day. Now I'm just like knitting a really long tube. There's a point at which I think I need to leave an opening, maybe, don't know. Double check the pattern, but yeah, this is just basically knitting in the round. Working with this Bouclé yarn has been interesting, to say the least. It was definitely trickier at first with the increases because it's quite a tight gauge and you're just, yeah, it was tricky at first, if I'm honest, because of the yarn and because of the gauge, but now I'm kind of used to it. Like working in Stockinette is fine. There are some questionable times where I might not have fully like pierced the stitch, or I've picked up a loop of Bouclé rather than the stitch, but I don't think it really matters, especially in this context. I'm not worried about it. I don't think I've dropped any stitches at any point. You see, I can't hold my knitting without working on it a little bit. But yeah, so this is just my kind of like as and when knitting. I'll probably work on this in the car when we go down to Devon on Sunday, just because it's like simple, easy knitting. I can knit in the car, but it can't be anything that I have to concentrate on. And I can get travel sick. I never used to get travel sick, but then I started getting travel sick in pregnancy and it never kind of went away again. So I have to be able to look up, look out the window, look at the road. I'm fine on the motorway. I'm fine under a certain speed, but when we get to the windy, windy country lanes of either around where we live or when we get down to Devon, I have to like look out the window and quite often put my knitting down. But if it's just general lazy motorway driving, obviously not whilst I'm driving, my husband always drives, because I feel nervous when there are other people in the car. I'm a great driver. I've never had an accident. I had an unfortunate incident with a deer, but that wasn't my fault. The deer was fine. I've never had an accident. I'm a good driver. I'm a confident driver. I really enjoy driving. But the moment there's another adult in the car, I suddenly get really nervous. So my husband tends to drive when we're together because he doesn't get nervous. So yeah, there you go. It's just a little bit of fun. I think what I'll probably do is I will keep knitting until I get halfway through the amount of yarn that I have. And then will mark the middle point and then continue, because I don't really want to buy any more yarn. Might make a bit of a funny shaped pillow. I've got a feeling I only just had the yardage for what it recommends for the smaller size, but it's deceptive, this pillow, because when you get to the point you stop increasing, it looked a lot smaller than it does now. And even then, this isn't on yarn holder, this is still on the needle, so it'll look even bigger when it's on like a yarn holder. It looks deceptively small, so I continued up to the larger size, thinking, oh, it must be my gauge, like, or something. Like, there you go. This is my marker for where I stopped increasing, and if you look at it, it's not this, yeah, it's not like at the edge, it's like in. So I thought my pillow was going to be like this. I thought my pillow was going to be, it's here, this wide, but it's actually like this wide, because, yeah, increases. So it's either going to be a bit of a stubby bolster pillow, or I'm going to have to buy another ball of this yarn, which is ridiculous because I will end up feeling the need to buy more yarn in order to justify buying this yarn and paying the postage. I did just do an order from Wool Warehouse, actually. I should have ordered another one. The dye lot would probably be different. I've not had the best of luck with dye lots when it comes to Rowan, if I'm honest. But yeah, this is turning into a bit of a knitting chat. Put it down. Okay, so there we go. That's my final whip. Whips are done. I have 2 acquisitions for you, one of which has a very clear plan and one of which doesn't, but is very, very special. I'm like hitting all the podcaster cliches today, drinking cold coffee. So the first acquisition I'm going to show you, I think I might have showed this before. Had it arrived when I did the last podcast? It's quite possible that I've showed you this yarn before. If I have, apologies. This is the Filcolana Merci, which is my official favourite summer yarn. I love it. Nothing compares to it. It is 50% superwash merino, 50% cotton, and it's Pima cotton, and it's lovely. It's so soft. I first used this when I made a Sunday tee for my mother-in-law, which I really want to pinch back. I wonder if she'll let me wear it when I go down this weekend. It's just so beautiful. That was worked single-stranded, and that was a big long knit, even though it was a t-shirt, but the fabric it created was so beautiful. But I intend to hold this double because I have kind of swatched and cast on for a few summer projects that are smaller gauge, and I just can't bring myself to do it. Like, I don't think the summer Sibling is going to be happening this year. I have absolutely no desire to work on it, and I need to start from scratch. So yeah, probably not this year. But I am kind of excited for the idea I've got for this, and I've got a little swatchy swatch for you, but I'm going to swatch again because it's not quite what I wanted. Here is my swatch. It's Garter Stitch. Can you guess what this is going to be? Yep, a Midland tee. That's right, that will probably be released before the actual cardigans. But this is a slightly tighter gauge than I wanted. I wanted it to be looser, a bit more open. Because it is 50% merino, there is still a warmth to it. And I'm kind of like a bit funny with summer knits, if I'm honest. I feel the pressure to design summer knits every year, but I never really want to. The summer souffle actually was a really easy one, but that was because I was basically doing a pattern I'd already done, just in a different fibre with slightly different design details, which is kind of what I'm doing here. It's still going to have the same vibe as the cardigan version, but it's going to have slightly different design details to make it summer. So yeah, I'm kind of like, when it comes to making a summer knit, unless you're making a strappy cotton or silk like vest or tank or cami, it's always going to be warm, right? You're never going to be flitting around on a 30-degree day in like a knitted t-shirt, really, are you? Do you? Are there people out there that do that? So I'm trying not to get too caught up in the fact that you know, it might not be like the coolest garment, but I do think I can make it a little bit more wearable by going on a slightly bigger gauge. Also, this turned out to be a much tighter gauge than the original, and I would like to get as close to the original as I can so that I can use the grading, which will make my life easier, which will make this design a lot more possible. It's probably going to be a round neck rather than a V-neck. So that will keep it interesting for me. It'll offer something a little bit different, and I've got some ideas about the sleeve as well. So I really want to cast this on. I really want to get this going, but I'm gonna finish my Sibling sweater first because I just want to get it off the needles now, and in the process I'm kind of a little bit done with the stripes. I'm ready to move onto some more lovely squishy garter. I'm a little bit concerned that this colour might not be the best for me and my skin tone. Might make me look very pink, it's quite salmony, or it might make me look a bit naked, but I don't really mind. I would have done white, but I couldn't get the white. It's quite tricky to get this in white because everybody wants it in white and it sells out super quickly. So I might keep an eye on Knit and Maple Tree yarns and see if I can get it in white. But it is a beautiful colour. It's ever so nice. I'm not much of a pinky wearer, and I think I love pink, but I never feel myself when I try to wear it. I think because this is more of a peachy, beigey pink. It's not like a pink or a baby pink. It's definitely more like a salmony, orangey pink. I might be able to get away with this a bit more, but it's highly likely that I will make this as a sample and probably maybe not actually wear it. But I'm coming to learn that that's part of being a knitwear designer. It's not always about knitting something that you want to wear a million times. It's about creating designs that other people want to wear. So there we go. That's the first acquisition and future project. The second acquisition was a massive surprise and something that's really special. Being someone who shares a lot of content online, who makes videos, who shares a lot about their life, who shares about their personal life and mental health, means I get to talk to a lot of other people in the world, and it means I get to make connections with people I would never normally come into contact with, and it means I can do it in a way that I'm quite comfortable with as someone who is very socially anxious. And because of this, I have quite a few kind of like internet friends, people that I talk to a lot on Instagram. And one friend messaged me to say she would like to send me some yarn to say thank you for sharing my mental health journey and how it's helped her along her way. And of course I said, like, no, don't worry about it. You don't need to thank me. I don't need thanks. I don't need like anything from you. Like, I get sent plenty of yarn from companies. Like, don't feel like you need to do that. Honestly, I'm just grateful that you're like here and that you're a friend and that you're, you know, I'm just grateful that you got something from my content. I don't need any thanks. But she insisted, and so eventually I said, okay, here's my address if you want to, but please don't feel like you have to. And I was thinking she was going to send me like a skein of yarn or something. She sent me a sweater's quantity of the most beautiful Norwegian yarn. She also sent me 3 massive bars of Norwegian chocolate, which were gorgeous. They were so good, and it's what fueled me throughout the painting of this room. But I wanted to show you the yarn because it's so lovely, and I'm very excited to use it. Now, hang on a minute. I'm assuming it's Norwegian. Yeah, I think she said she works with this company, so she didn't go and spend all her money on this. I think she was able to get it at cost. But it is the, I'm going to say this wrong, Vilja, whatever that says. Oh, I could Google the pronunciation. Hang on. Right, so that's not coming up as a Norwegian word. It's coming up as an Icelandic word for will, and it sounds like
Vilja.
Vilja, I was right. So yeah, I'm not sure what it means in Norwegian because Google Translate is letting me down, but I'm sure one of you will tell me in the comments. Vilja, and it's 100% økologisk ull, which I'm pretty sure is organic wool, and it's lovely. It's so soft. I don't think it is superwash from what I can tell. It says hand wash only, so yeah, I don't think it's super wash, but it's ever so soft, so it might be super wash. It's definitely not like, this is non-super wash merino, and this is definitely smoother, but this definitely isn't like this guy, which is definitely woolly and rustic. It's in between the two. And when I saw the colour, I was just like, oh my god, it's so me. It's a beautiful brown. My sister jokes that my favourite colour is brown. Kind of is. But it's a beautiful brown, but it's a cool brown. It's not a warm brown, and I'm definitely finding myself leaning more towards cooler tones. I'll never be a blue person, but the cooler browns, the cooler beiges, the greys, they're like, yeah, don't know what it is. But I do still love a warm tone. I love a rust, I love an orange, but I am being more drawn towards these kind of cooler tones. And it's almost got a mauvey purple vibe in some lights. It's never going to translate well, although yeah, it's darker on camera. It's actually coming across really close to colour. If anything, I'd say it's a little bit warmer than it shows on camera. But anyway, it's gorgeous. I've got a sweater quantity's worth of this, and I'm so excited to make something with it. It gives me, like, I don't know why, but when I see this yarn, it makes me want to make a round textured yoke. Not necessarily lace, not necessarily cables, maybe a combination of the two, but it just gives me textured round yoke. And that's probably because I haven't done a round yoke for ages. I'm a little bit bored of drop shoulders and raglans now, and my mind is probably craving something a bit different to what I've been working on. So I can definitely see this as something, I don't know. I think what I will do with this, are these different dye lots? No, the same dye lot. Oh. What I will probably do with this is I will either use this for a leisure knit, by which I mean not a design, somebody else's pattern, knit purely for my pleasure, maybe towards the end of the summer going into autumn, or I will use it for a design. If I find an idea or I see a stitch pattern or something strikes me and I want to use this, then I will. I don't know how readily available this is in the UK. It's probably quite readily available in Norway, as it is Norway. I might have to do a little bit of research, but it's a DK weight yarn. It's DK weight wool yarn. It's not going to be difficult to replicate. You know, you could use Knitting for Olive, you could use Double Sunday, you could use many different things to replicate this. So thank you so much. You know who you are. I appreciate this so much. This is so special. I'm not going to let it be one of those special yarns that I don't use, because I'm waiting for the special project. I'm going to use it soon, and I'm really looking forward to it because it's so beautiful. So that brings us to the end of all the stuff. Quite a lot of stuff today. I hope you enjoyed it. I've already shared with you my podcast recommendation for today. Lovely Simone of Rust Knitwear. Please go and check her out. Is there any other content I've been enjoying? What do we? Let's have a little quick look at who I've been watching recently. Oh, James Watts now has a podcast. Did you know? Now, I've not made any James Watts designs. I'm fully aware of a lot of them because they're quite iconic in their design. Super interesting. And he's just started a podcast. The second one came out about a week ago, I think, and I definitely enjoyed his first episode. I found it really, really interesting to watch. Very different from the normal thing I would watch, so it's always nice to do something a bit different. I have been enjoying the Woolly Mammoth Fibres podcast. Lovely Emma, who makes the yarn I used for the Midland cardigan. She has been a lot more prolific on YouTube recently. Lots of lovely little vlogs, kind of like just really relaxed, chilled out, day in the life, filmed over a couple of days. Yarny, knitty, just life in the Northern Ireland countryside. A lot of nature, a lot of walks. Lots of content from Emma recently, which I've really, really been enjoying. It's very consumable, it's very watchable, it's absolutely lovely. And that's kind of mainly my main kind of vibes at the moment, podcast wise. Marina, Skua, Simone and Emma. So hopefully there are a few things in there for you to go and watch that you've not seen before. We've kind of covered what's coming up for me over the next few weeks really, definitely design wise. Life wise, we are fully in like a decorating zone now, definitely triggered by this one. The next rooms we're going to do are the kids' rooms. They currently share, but we're going to split them up because my husband no longer needs an at-home office, which means I will be getting rid of my yarn storage. And I'm glad that's going to happen because if I'm honest, I've never been happy with it. It always looks messy to me. There's too much of it. I'll probably do a destash soon and I'm worried that it's going to get faded in the light. So that room will become my daughter's room. The storage will stay in there and I'll probably reserve the top 2 bits of that for my yarn storage, but they'll be put away in like boxes, like nice neat boxes. So it doesn't look like she's got yarn in her room. It just looks like storage. So yeah, there's going to be quite a lot. I've already started planning. I have definitely found that doing all my planning, sourcing everything I want for the rooms, collecting it over time, spreading the cost of it, focusing towards like one particular week where I'm going to do the actual decorating and installing of the things is the way I like to decorate. So that's what we'll do. We'll do Penny's room first, then Jeff's room, and then we have the builders coming in a couple of weeks. They're just doing outside work at the moment, no more inside work, but we have a shared wall with our neighbour and some steps that run up the side of our house. As I mentioned, our house is in a hill and they have deteriorated over time and need replacing, and our next door neighbour is having an extension done which meets our shared wall, so it all just kind of works out and we'll do it all at the same time. So we've got a little bit of building work coming, bit of decorating. I am running again. It's very, very exciting. I'm not a winter runner, but I'm definitely spring, summer, autumn runner, and I really felt the urge for it this year. The moment the sun comes out, I'm like, get me out there, get me in the fields with the sheep and the sky and the clouds and the leaves. And I'm not so keen on the puddles at the moment, but I did buy myself some proper waterproof running shoes. Yeah, I'm just ready for spring, I think. I mean, it is spring now. I'm not normally so excited about the warmer months. I'm normally like, give me like jumper and leggings over shorts and t-shirt any day. But I am actually looking forward to the summer months, as long as it's not 40 degrees again. So yeah, lots coming up. I'm ready for the change in season. I'm ready for the change in pace. It's the summer term, which is kind of like the last big term of the school year over here. Then it will be the summer holidays and then Penelope will be starting school. So content wise from me, probably much of the same, just filming as and when feels right to me. Podcasts, I might do another vlog soon. Like I said, I've not been feeling very vloggy, but maybe when the kids go back to school I'll do something like that. But yeah, definitely focusing more towards the design side of things at the moment than the YouTube side of things. It tends to flip between the two, like I can't really fully 100% focus on both things at once, and one tends to take the lead. And it's definitely knitwear design at the moment, which is good. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I think I've run out of things to say. Thank you for joining me for this totally unplanned, completely random episode. I enjoyed myself. I've got the post-podcast buzz. I'm probably going to edit it straight away as well. Who am I? So I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.